light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's go, 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 go!
Hi guys, welcome to the 5 Red Lights. My name's Aaron, I am your host, and today I am joined by George Howson, and he is from the F1 Grid Talk podcast. Hello George, how are you today?
I'm all right, Aaron, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell us a little bit about the F1 Grid Talk podcast and where to find it?
Yeah, so we do a podcast, do 3 podcasts per race week, and we do a preview, qualifying analysis, and a race review. You have been on the preview for Belgium this weekend. We get a variety of guests on. That's what everybody says about us, says that we, have the biggest variety of guests from all different backgrounds. We have quite a few women on there as well, which is great for inclusion. And if you want to check us out, you can find us on all the usual podcasting platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and of course on the F1 Chronicles website as well. F1chronicle.com is the guys that host us. So yeah, that's where we can find our show.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And as you said, I was on there last night, actually, recording the Belgian Grand Prix preview. Now, we did a properly in-depth preview for everyone yesterday, so we won't be doing quite so much in-depth today. So if you wanted to go and find out a little bit more about what we all think about this weekend's race, go and check that. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Now, let's start with a quick recap of where we are after the summer break. And we've got a really intense title battle. Max and Lewis very close at the top of the standings. They've had some wins and they've had some confrontations, 8 points between them. And there are 9, 10 races to go, depending on how many get added in. Where do you see this going, George? Who's coming out on top?
Oh God, my opinion of this changes every week. The longer it stays close, the more I think it'll be Sir Lewis Hamilton that comes out on top. He's been there before. He's already a 7-time world champion. He's chasing the 8th title to go clear at the top of the all-time rankings. But throughout all this, I still think that Red Bull have the best car, but they do show they're inexperienced in a title fight. I mean, they haven't had a title fight since 2013, since Seb was winning his titles for them. So the longer it stays close, the more I favour Lewis Hamilton. But I think this weekend will be this will be a big indicator, because we've had 4 weeks now off, and the guys have had plenty of time to improve the car. Mercedes could be faster, Red Bull could be faster. I think this weekend will show us a lot, but I'm just looking forward to watching it more than anything. This is a proper title fight between 2 great drivers and 2 great teams as well. And it's not something we've had a lot recently, and it's made a very welcome change.
It has. And while sometimes with Mercedes having Nico and Lewis in the same team, that had its own very interesting dynamic. There's just something more special about it being 2 teams. And if you think back down the years, McLaren and Ferrari, McLaren, Williams, Ferrari and Williams, when there was 2 teams involved, it was slightly more tribal. If you think about football, when there's 2 top teams playing against each other, the fans are as important as anything. So that the pit crew and the team back at the factory are just as important when it's 2 teams facing off against each other. So they're working not necessarily like a civil war, but they're working a wider angle on how they go about their racing. And I agree with you. I think the longer it stays close, the more that Hamilton's championship nous will come into play, because he'll be able to put pressure on Max, and Max will know that he cannot afford to make that mistake. And then it might then trip Red Bull up as a team. As you say, they've made some mistakes, but I think Mercedes have showed some small ineptitudes in terms of being in a proper title fight. They had Ferrari as a contender for 2 or 3 years, a few years ago, before they had their engine nerfed. But even then, Mercedes was still pretty dominant in the team factor on that. It's going to be fascinating to watch, because they're both at the peak of their game, and Hamilton at 36 to be still pulling these results out of the bag and this effort, considering the state we saw him in at the end of the race in Hungary, that tells you something about him, how determined he is to win an 8th world title, which I think is just staggering.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. It's amazing to see how much he's. I remember I remember after Rosberg won his title in 2016, that people then were questioning, oh, Hamilton, he's not got it anymore. He's won his 3 titles. He's matched Ayrton Senna. He's done. He's not going to be able to do this anymore. And he's won the next 4 titles in a row after that, maybe even a 5th this year. The guy's incredible. I mean, some people say, oh, he shouldn't have been knighted. Yes, he should have done. He's one of our best sports people ever as a country. He absolutely deserves his straight on the Silverstone circuit. He's got incredible pace. He's always had incredible pace, but now he's got consistency. He's got patience. He's got experience, and him and that team, him and Mercedes, just works so well. It's a winning, proven combination, and it's of the likes of Michael Schumacher and Ferrari and Ayrton Senna and McLaren back in the day. It's of that level. You just expect Hamilton to be up there every weekend, and he pretty much always is.
Yeah, you bang on there. And he's taken it a step further in the last couple of years with his Hamilton Commission and expanding his role in terms of off track and being more inclusive. So he's ticking all the boxes in terms of what's needed to be a great sportsman and just a great human being in general. And of course, he's got a ferocious competitor in Max. Where do you see Max being able to get the advantage over such an experienced competitor?
It's raw pace for Max Verstappen. His biggest disadvantage is going to be coming, like I said, with the experience, the lack thereof for Verstappen. It's his first title battle in Formula One. The pressure on him is enormous. People expect him to be winning. He's going to have his home support. He's going to have the Orangian army going all around Europe. I mean, they're going to be really egging him on in Belgium this weekend, the Netherlands the weekend after, and Italy as well. I expect Red Bull, if things stay as they are, because Honda have just thrown absolutely everything at their power unit this year, and it's paid off. I think they've probably got the best engine on the grid this year. So I expect him to do well around the power track. So Belgium, Italy, and probably the USA as well. I mean, it depends which tracks we go to, of course. If we go to the Bahrain Oval, that'll be another great one for them. But Max, he just needs to get back to winning ways. He's not winning 2 races, which, okay, normally that's not so bad, but momentum's everything in this title fight, and he needs to get it back because right now it's with Hamilton and Mercedes.
Yeah, and how often before have we seen Hamilton wrestle momentum away in the second half of the season and just disappear into the sunset? Now, let's look a little bit further down the grid, but not too far. Locked on 163 points are 2 old foes, McLaren and Ferrari. Ferrari ahead actually on countback. Where do you see this being won? Because obviously Lando Norris is pulling out all the stops for McLaren. Daniel Ricciardo is having a little bit of a tricky time. But then you've got the 2 Ferrari boys who are always kind of in between them and delivering very good results, and the odd really stellar performance like Carlos Sainz with his podium in Hungary.
Yeah, and Leclerc's second place in Silverstone as well. That was unbelievable. He almost won that race, of course. The deciding factor, I mean, you touched on him there. The deciding factor in this battle for me is Daniel Ricciardo. We know that Lando Norris is performing extremely well, hence why you're wearing his shirt, why you're repping the merch for Lando Norris, of course. He's just been unbelievable this season. He's been fantastic. In my opinion, I think he's probably been the driver of the season. The only time he didn't score points was when he got took out at Hungary. He's been incredibly consistent, and it's only his 3rd year in the sport. It's unbelievable how well he's doing. I don't think the Ferrari is anywhere near as good a car as the McLaren, but they've managed to keep in there because Carlos Sainz, he's gone into that team. He's slotted into that car incredibly well. Charles Leclerc, we know how fast this kid is. He really does remind me of Gilles Villeneuve. He just wrestles that Ferrari around the tracks. He's got 2 pole positions this year. He should have won Monaco. If he started the race in Monaco, he probably would have won it, for being honest here.
There was a point in... if he'd started the Monaco Grand Prix and obviously won it because of track position being so key there, I think after the pole position in Baku, he could have been in with a shout of launching a title bid. He could have been potentially that close had things gone his way. Obviously they didn't, and he was nowhere. But that's how close it was at the start of the season, and how surprising it was for Ferrari to be up that far. And like you say, he's an X Factor performer.
Yeah, absolutely. He's brilliant. I mean, we saw it last year. Last year for me, he impressed me no end. I mean, yeah, Vettel didn't agree with the car, didn't agree with the team. He probably wasn't giving 100%, to be honest, either. But the difference in pace between Leclerc and Vettel last year was staggering. To get podiums like Leclerc did last year, and to be getting podiums again this year and pole positions, if Ferrari get the regulation changes right next year, they're going to be in a title fight, especially for the drivers in the case of Charles Leclerc. But like I said, in the battle for third, I think McLaren are going to win it. I think Ferrari have gone a bit too early with all their development. I think they spent all the development tokens on the rear of the car, which has helped them. That's going to hurt them in the second half of the season. I think McLaren still have some improvements to be made. And if Daniel Ricciardo gets on top of that car, if he gets consistent results like he should be able to do, he's an experienced driver, he should be able to improve. He has shown he has pace in that car. Then I think McLaren should win it pretty comfortably. But while ever Ricciardo's hot and cold like he is right now, Ferrari have got a very good chance.
They do, but it might just take one freaky, fluky result for Ricciardo to swing that, and that might be all he needs. Like a Hungary, I mean, you could get it this weekend if it rains in Belgium, but you can never count out Carlos Sainz. I think he is a very underrated performer. I think because he kind of goes under the radar. No one notices his races, and then all of a sudden he's there, 5th, 6th, just picking up these solid points. And then when he has these outstanding races, everyone goes, wow, he's amazing. But it shouldn't come as a surprise. And really, he should be in the second Red Bull, and Red Bull know that. And that's where they're playing catch up, because they let him go. And Ferrari are reaping the benefit of it, because he's just so slick. He just delivers.
He's a smooth operator, isn't he? That's what he's all about.
That is exactly it. He is a smooth operator.
He's brilliant, isn't he? He really is. Like you say, he does go under the radar because, I remember a couple of years ago from McLaren, he started from the back of the grid in Austria, finished 6th. It's not going to make headlines, but that kind of performance is brilliant. I think 2 of his podiums now, Hungary and Brazil 2019, he's got podiums after post-race penalties. So he's not been on the podium sometimes. So that's probably why he does go under the radar a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's fantastic. I really do rate him. Red Bull will be kicking themselves for letting him go. I don't think him and Max got on particularly well. I think that might be why. They probably never got the promotion.
Might have been too difficult.
Yeah, they didn't get on at Toro Rosso when they both started out. Probably because Carlos Sainz was so close. Nobody remembers this, but Carlos Sainz was so close to Verstappen in terms of performance at Toro Rosso. And we all know how fast Verstappen is. You put Sainz and Verstappen in the Red Bull this year, I think the constructors' battle would be over by now, to be honest.
Yeah,
I love Sergio Perez, but he has really struggled at times. I think that is a very hard car to drive, but Carlos Sainz has shown he can move teams and just get on top of it immediately and be as fast as the fastest drivers out there.
Yeah, and he showed up well against Hülkenberg when he was at Renault and was really unfortunate to be dropped by them, picked up by McLaren, got on top of that car, delivered brilliantly, earned his drive to Ferrari, and now he looks exactly the driver that we always thought he could be. And he's still fairly young. I think he's only a couple of years older than Max. I think he's like 26. So there's years left in him yet. And there's definitely a couple of world championships in there. Who would come out on top between him and Charles is, it's anyone's guess. But they bring different attributes to the table. But at the moment, I think I agree with you that McLaren have the edge in that battle. And Ferrari are going to need both Carlos and Charles to be firing on all the cylinders at every race, picking up as many points as possible.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, the championship, the Drivers' Championship table does show that, that Sainz is ahead of Leclerc, but I think that's skewed mainly because Leclerc didn't start in Monaco and he got took out in Hungary. Carlos Sainz has finished every race. What he has is consistency. And who else has had and still has incredible consistency? Fernando Alonso. He has learned a lot from his idol. He is like a young version of Alonso. And Alonso's still going strong at 40. So, yeah. Carlos Sainz, I think he is about 26. So he could have 15 years left in F1 if he wants to stay for that long. He's definitely got potential to win championships in the future. He just has to win the political battle, and he has to play the team game right, because that's something that Alonso, for the most part, didn't do. He only really did it at Renault. The Enstone team seems to suit him, but when he went to McLaren and Ferrari, just things started happening around him. Yeah, it was a PR disaster, wasn't it, most of the time? So
I think in Carlos's benefit, he has his dad, obviously, who's been at the top of
Yeah.
motorsport as a world rally champion. So he'll know the ins and outs of how to control that situation as best as possible. So let's move on to the main topic of this episode, which is our Spa memories. And of course, I said at the start, we did a more in-depth, more detailed analysis of everyone's prospects for the weekend last night. So I'll, again, focus everyone towards that link in the description. So when you think of Spa, George, what's the first memory that comes to mind?
First memory. Well, the first thing for me that comes to mind, and whenever I think about it, I get goosebumps and the hairs on my neck back of my neck stand up. It's the overtake of Mika Hakkinen on Michael Schumacher in the year 2000.
Yeah.
Just, I've got shivers now just thinking about it. You know, it just at the time, I didn't see it at the time because I was too young, really. I wasn't watching F1 back then. And I remember when I first started watching F1, I thought, no big deal. I do that in the game all the time, you know. But the more I look at it now, the more I think, just, you know, the guy had absolute minerals. I'll say that to pull that off at that speed, with Zonta in the middle of them, you know, that's Spa Francorchamps for me. Just incredible speed, unbelievable driving to do that. He went up Eau Rouge flat, which back in those days usually ended up in a horrific accident.
Yeah.
But he managed to pull it off. He showed pure Sisu in that one, did Mika Hakkinen?
Absolute Sisu. To put it into a bit of context, there was a little bit of rain falling in that race, and he'd spun from the lead. And if you, I watched the onboard actually about half an hour ago before we came on air, to just sort of refresh my memory, because it's in one of my top three. And the lap before, they're chasing a Minardi, which was at the back of the grid that year. And they didn't quite catch it. And Schumacher almost put Hakkinen on the grass. And you see this puff of water come up from the white line. And it's a miracle that Hakkinen didn't lose it and take the pair of them out. The lap later, and bear in mind the McLaren was looking pretty jittery through the middle sector. All of a sudden, he has this massive run through the final sector, and straight line speed is always crucial around Spa. And suddenly he's on his tail, and you think there's still no way through. Schumacher's just going to do the same thing. And even at the last second, you see this back marker in the way, and you think, how is he getting through there? And yet he does. It was the only way to get past Schumacher, was to compromise him to the point where he had no option. And, you know, that's what we saw with Barrichello in 2010 at Hungary. You had to give Schumacher almost no way of stopping you. And you had to show the Sisu and you had to show the minerals to get through him. And as you say, it is probably one of the standout moments, the very top standout moments. If you're going to put together a package to show someone who's brand new to Formula One what Formula One is all about, that's in there.
Without a doubt, yeah. And I love the conversation that those two had as well after. You couldn't hear what they're saying, but you could just see them with their hands just like, I went this way and you went that way and I went past. You know, I just love that. I love the respect between those two. You know, that was a proper rivalry, and I just love to see it. It has boiled over a bit with Verstappen and Hamilton at times. I hope it doesn't get nasty. I want to see the guys respecting each other, but those two had real respect between each other. It's, you know, it was a great rivalry between 98 and 2000. Great years in F1. It
was peak McLaren and Ferrari battles as well. And those two had been through it all. They had a clash in the Macau F3 race back in the very early 90s. I think it was 1990, where Schumacher allegedly brake checked Hakkinen. So they'd been through it together. So Hakkinen knew exactly what he was up against, and Schumacher knew exactly what he was up against. And it was just a fantastic, when those two were on track together, it was always a fantastic duel. And talking of fantastic duels, I'm going to throw the Rosberg and Hamilton clash in 2014 into our Spa memories, because I think that was the real trigger point for proper meltdown at Mercedes. And that's what led to Spain 2016 and eventually Abu Dhabi 2016, with Hamilton pretty much disregarding team orders. And this was Rosberg having been overtaken at a few races and not coming out on top in wheel-to-wheel combat, trying to make his mark and not doing it very well.
Yeah, he made a mark in the side of Lewis's tyre. Hamilton had to retire, I think, from that one. He kept going for a while, but he had to retire because of the aerodynamic damage on his floor. It just ruined his pace. He couldn't even get past. Oh, what was it now? I think it was Kamui Kobayashi in the caterum or something like that. He couldn't get past him.
I think
So he
Andre
retired
Lotterer
the
was in that
car.
race as well.
I think sorry, I've got a really good memory for this kind of stuff. Lotterer was the year before, I think. I think he went in 2013, did one race, but it could have been 2014 actually.
I do remember
Yeah,
he
he
didn't last
retired
very
after like
long.
the first corner. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like the first lap. His
Yeah.
Formula One career. I think
And every
they
time I
wanted
watch
him
him
to
in
come
Formula
back.
E, every time I
Yeah,
watch him in Formula E, he just crashes into someone.
Yeah, pretty much. Very good sports car racer, but yeah, in FE and F1, bit hit and miss.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, no, I remember that one. I remember being fuming at the time, and then it ended up with Daniel Ricciardo winning the race. I was very happy about that in the end. I think it was also Toto Wolff's unbelievable. This is unacceptable on the TV. after it's just totally unacceptable. You know,
I wasn't
he had
sure
a
if it
word
was
with him.
Toto or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
They're from the same part of Austria. People say, "Oh, it sounds like the same guy," but that's why they're both from Styria, so similar accent.
So that moment caused so many other very interesting things to happen, and the Toto interview is just one of those, because you saw him become the team boss in that sense. Because up to then, everyone thought, well, he's just an investor. He's there, pally with Niki Lauda. Where's Ross Brawn? And then there he is, laying down the law, saying that it's unacceptable for this to be happening.
Yeah, that was the moment when we really realised that. I didn't realise he was a racer before that as well. I looked him up after that. I was like, oh, he used to race. He raced with Alex Wurz and people like that. So he is a racer at heart, Toto. He didn't quite have the talent to make it to the top level, but he's got a very good racing brain. I think he knows what a top level driver should do. And yeah, I could imagine Niki Lauda wasn't too pleased there either.
He wasn't one to mince his words.
No, never. And God bless his soul. I love Niki Lauda. I really do miss him. And I think I've said this a few times. Mercedes could be doing with him right now in the championship battle. He'd give both drivers some great advice, especially Bottas. I think he'd really help Bottas out this season. But yeah, that led to all sorts of crashes between them. And there was Austria 2016 as well. They had another clash. I don't think they had many in 2015. But there was a few.
The one at Texas at the start where Hamilton just sort of didn't turn as much as he should have. Which at the time I was like, yeah, that's great. Biff him off the road, get rid of him.
And the gust of wind got Rosberg in the end. But
yes, the terrible wind gets us all.
Terrible wind, yeah. Yeah. No, the thing is for me, I mean, a lot of people complained about Hamilton in Hungary this year with his was slowing down and stuff in qualifying on purpose, but that's just gamesmanship. That's experience. That's just making things difficult. That's doing absolutely everything you can to make it difficult, and that's what Hamilton are doing in a championship battle. If Verstappen did the same thing, people would be saying, "Oh, that's great. That's really clever. Lewis couldn't get a lap in." So there we go.
Yeah, exactly. That's just the way things are in Formula One. That's how sport is. You have to maximize your advantage. Now,
100%.
Let's move on to my final Spa memory. It's actually my first memory because Spa 1998 was actually the very first race I watched as a 5-year-old. So I'm not going to go with the obvious one, which was the pile up at the start. Actually going with the section where Schumacher crashes into David Coulthard and then storms down the pit lane to try and have a fight with him while DC's still got his helmet on.
Oh, that was something that I just love. Again, another guy, God bless his soul, Murray Walker. When I think of that, I just think of his commentary when they crash. It's, oh God, Michael Schumacher has hit David Coulthard. I love that. And then
all
Schumacher,
sense of professionalism went out the window.
It does.
Pure reaction.
The passion came through. Yeah, absolutely. And Schumacher, being as talented as a driver as he was, could manage to get the car back on 3 wheels.
Yeah. There were so many things that a 5-year-old should be fascinated by. The fact that there's these cars driving around in the pouring rain, then they crash into each other and one carries on with 3 wheels and then they try and have a fight in the pit lane. It's classic 90s of Formula One. It's just
yeah, I love it.
Again, it was the height
cost him sorry, go on.
It was the height of the Hakkinen and Schumacher rivalry in that year because it put the pressure on.
It did, yeah. I mean, it really cost Michael Schumacher in hindsight. That could have been 10 points. That should have been 10 points for him. He was the fastest guy on the track by a mile. He was lapping like 3 or 4 seconds faster than anybody else.
It was just outrageous, wasn't it?
He was the Regenmeister. He really was something else in the wet. There's been other drivers as well, Verstappen and Senna, obviously, as well, but Schumacher was also up there. Unbelievable pace. And that race as well is probably one of my 3 too, to be honest with you. But probably for Damon Hill winning, for Jordan winning. First win for Jordan, Damon Hill's last win. You know, I just love to see that. I mean, there's obviously some controversy with the other Schumacher, Ralph Schumacher, who, you know, he was faster, but Jordan said, no, you got to hold him up. You know, you got to hold station. And that ended up with, funny, a bit of trivia here, that ended up with Michael Schumacher going to Eddie Jordan and saying, my brother is no longer going to race for your team. I refuse. And he said, well, you're going to have to buy him out then. He didn't say in those polite terms, but Schumacher ended up buying out Ralph Schumacher's contract, and that's why he moved to Williams the next year.
Yeah, a lot of very interesting stories coming out of that race, and like you say, that the Jordan win is so iconic, and I think as well for me as a young fan, seeing that team win, that put them into kind of my sphere where I became a Jordan fan, and obviously they're quite striking with their liveries, and teams aren't quite as bold as with their liveries. And it was the B&H logos everywhere and the different styles of it, which were really quite captivating. But the way the Jordan team were run, and it's really nice to see them still going, and now as essentially a works team as Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's great to see them still going. I love some of the old Jordan liveries. Obviously the original one, the 91 one that was all green and blue. The 98 one, the snake livery. Now that was cool. That was cool.
That was amazing.
That's how you would draw a car when you were like 5 years old, like having like snakes and scales and everything on it just to make it that badass.
It's just so creative. So creative. The cars have these pointy noses. Do something with it. And Jordan did. They always push the boundaries on their sponsors and their liveries. And I remember when they went to countries with the cigarette advertising ban, they would change the Benson and Hedges to Be on Edge or Buzz and Hornets, which was very clever. And like as an adult now, I can appreciate those sort of things, which is, you know, that's what some part of sport is about. It's about being creative and finding a way around an obstacle.
Absolutely, yeah. And they did it with the advertising back then too. It's kind of sad in a way that the best liveries were tobacco brands. I really do stick by that. I love the old McLaren Marlboro one as well, the red and white one. It's iconic, but obviously it's controversial in what it was showing, but it just looked good. If you just take it as a piece of art, it's up there and better than what we get now, to be honest. Like you said,
things are a bit more PC and a lot tamer, which is a shame.
Yeah,
I mean, at least Mercedes changed their silver to black for something bigger than the sport, but I don't think you get every team doing that, especially not Ferrari.
No. They'll always be red, won't they? They're always going to be red. It's what they're all about.
That's
National
what they
racing colours of Italy. Yeah, of course. And long may it continue. Shall I say my other 2?
Yeah, go on.
Belgian moments.
Throw those in there.
So the other one of the other ones is from 2018, a race that I was attending, and I remember the cars going 4 wide up the Kemmel Straight. I wasn't at that part of the track. I wasn't able to see that firsthand, but I saw it on the TV screen, and just unbelievable to see 2 Force Indias up there, almost leading. And that race as well, I remember before them saying, oh, well, Force India might not be able to race, you know, because they had the whole legal battle. They're in administration. I think they had to start on 0 points again. And I think they got it was 4th and 7th or something like that. So they overtook a bunch of teams in one weekend. So seeing that as well. And it was sad as well at the start, seeing the crash that could have ended Charles Leclerc's life. I think it was Fernando Alonso that bounced on top of him. And without the halo, it would have been a horrible accident. And before that race, I was kind of anti-halo. I was thinking, Is it good? It looks horrible. Is it actually going to save anybody? And it did. And it has saved a bunch of people since. So that really did shut a lot of people,
Yeah.
including myself, up. So fair enough on that regard. And what was the other one? I was going to say another one. Oh, yeah, 1995 as well. The battle between Schumacher and Hill, and probably over the line by Schumacher. He really did take it to the extreme. The defending he was putting in on Hill, no way you could get away with that nowadays.
No.
But I think he went from like 16th to win the race. So the
I
guy
actually
just
watched
had
that.
ridiculous pace.
He carves through the field because obviously this was when there was a much wider split in terms of performance. And then when the rain comes out, for some reason, he doesn't go for the wets and Hill does. And even though Hill's in a car that's as fast and on better tyres, he still can't get past. And what makes that bit of section of the race, I think, again, like you mentioned earlier, is Murray Walker's commentary. It's just so perfect.
It always was, wasn't it? It's iconic. We really do miss him. It's been 20 years since he commentated on a Formula One race, but just his commentary just makes it. It always did. Even if the race wasn't that particular great, it was just his booming voice, just like, and here comes Damon Hill round the final bend. It just worked, didn't it? It was just brilliant.
It just sounded right. It still does.
Yeah.
Still does. And we miss him greatly. And it's a tough job. And obviously, Crofty for Sky Sports, he doesn't get everything right. But I'm sure if you put us in that same position, we would probably make some mistakes too.
100%.
And even Murray was guilty of making mistakes, but everyone just loved him for them a bit more.
Yeah, that was the thing. I don't make mistakes. I make prophecies that immediately turn out to be wrong. That's one of my favorite of his as well.
Yeah. And with half the race gone, there is still half to go. Something like that.
He's not wrong.
It's usually some form of correctness in there.
A smidge of truth and a whole lot of oh man,
brilliant. I think that is a brilliant set of memories, and Spa will mean something to someone and it will mean something different to someone else, and that is what Formula One and sport in general is all about, making these memories. Okay, these drivers are competing for something that means a lot to them, but for us as fans, seeing these moments and living these moments and being able to discuss them with other people is what life in general is about. So let's move on to some predictions. Let's start with qualifying. And George, who are you going to put on pole position?
I'm going to go with Sir Lewis Hamilton. I think Mercedes could well have the best one lap pace round here. They did in Hungary, very different track. Obviously, they got a 1-2 in qualifying for Hungary. So with Hamilton's qualifying record, I reckon he'll do just enough to edge out Max Verstappen in qualifying.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Lewis riding that crest of confidence, and as we said before, momentum. He has the momentum in the title battle at the moment. Okay, we've had 4 weeks away, but he's had 4 weeks of saying, I'm leading this world championship. And Max has had 4 weeks of saying, I've scored no points in the last 2 races, or 1 point in the last 2 races. And he needs to wrestle back momentum. I think Hamilton's going to take pole position as well. I think Mercedes will have something up their sleeve that gets them pole position, and they will work out what to do from there. Who do you think is going to be second and third in qualifying?
Second and third in qualifying. Well, I think Max Verstappen will get second in qualifying. Third.
Third could be tricky because there's a lot of drivers who could spring a surprise. There's a lot of drivers who could potentially underperform.
There are. Bottas is normally quite good in qualifying, but I don't think the Mercedes is going to be the best car this weekend. I said it on Grid Talk as well. So I'll go with Sergio Perez. I'll go for Checo for third place.
I've actually gone for Bottas. I've gone Ham Verbot as my top 3, which is incredibly boring because
it could be right though. That's the thing. It could well be right. It
could also be completely right. But then you shouldn't discount Lando Norris or potentially even Daniel Ricciardo, because I think the McLaren is going to be quite strong. It's quite efficient with its aero, so it's going to be good down the straights, and that could be their saving grace. And don't rule out Charles Leclerc. He is an excellent qualifier, as we've seen this season.
He's unreal in qualifying, isn't he? But I don't think Ferrari are going to have a good weekend. They could well surprise me, but I don't think they're going to have a good weekend. I think their lack of power is really going to catch up with them here.
Yeah. Okay, so that's qualifying sorted. Who is your race winner and then subsequent race top 3?
So I went for Hamilton for pole, but I am going to say Max Verstappen to win the race. I don't think Lewis Hamilton will lead the first lap. I think Verstappen will probably get him on the first lap. I think that Red Bull is just better on the power circuits. Yeah, tracks like Bahrain, Hamilton won, but I think Verstappen was the faster driver overall. Hamilton just did enough on the strategy to beat him. I think strategy could be key again here. And I think also if it rains like it's predicting it will do, but you can't predict the weather in Spa ever.
No, never.
If it does rain, again, I think that will also play into Max Verstappen's hands because Hamilton is brilliant in the wet. He really is. But Verstappen, I think he's even better. I really do think he's something else. And he showed that skill in Imola as well, I believe, this season. So I'll go for Verstappen for the win. I'll say Hamilton to come home in second. Third, I'll be consistent. I'll say what I said on Grid Talk. I'll go for Daniel Ricciardo for a surprise podium.
Coming through from the field to surprise everyone. Or something crazy is about to happen.
Either way, it's fine by me. I'd love to see Daniel back on the podium. I want to see the shoey back. It's been too long.
Yes. Shoey. Have you ever done one?
No, I've taken on a few bets where I could have done it if I lost. I think a few times when Ricciardo started well down the field in an F1 race, I said, "Oh, I'll do a shoey if he gets a podium," and I think he got fourth one time. So it was this close to doing it, but
Sweating.
No, I've never done it, and I never want to do it. It just the thought of it's just gross. I'll be honest. Have you?
No, I would like to do it though. I would really like to do it, and I need to find a reason to do it.
Shall we have a bet?
Yeah, go on. Let's have a bet.
Shall we have a bet? So I've said that. Oh, screw it. We've been through a miserable time as a country and a world for very long. So I'll say if Daniel Ricciardo doesn't get a podium, I'll do a shoey. And I'll record it and I'll put it on Grid Talk or something. I don't know how I'll get it out, but I'm saying it now. There we go.
It's on record. It's
on record. I'll put a beer in my shoe and I'll drink it if Ricciardo gets fourth or lower. He's going to get taken out the first corner now, I've said this, but there we go.
If he DNFs, I will let you off, or we'll just keep it rolling.
Okay, all right. Keep it going, yeah.
Let's leave it open-ended. Tell you what, if he gets a podium, I'll do the shoey.
So one of us is doing the shoey unless he DNFs. Okay, yeah. Fine by me. Virtual handshake on that.
Yeah. Brilliant. So you've gone Verstappen, Hamilton, and then Daniel Ricciardo to shock everyone with the podium.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually got his McLaren teammate on the podium in third place, behind Max Verstappen in second and Lewis Hamilton as the race winner. Now, I think Hamilton and Verstappen, you can have them either way around. But I think Hamilton, if he looks back at 2017, he might just be able to do something similar to what he did to Sebastian Vettel after the safety car restart that year, which was, even though the Ferrari was right in the slipstream, he actually made Sebastian get too close so that the slipstream wasn't effective. So he had to essentially get out of it and then reapply the throttle as he came through Radion. And then Sebastian didn't have the oomph to get past. Okay, at the start, that's a lot more tricky because if you start checking people up, you might start triggering collisions and that can get very dangerous. But I think in a more open battle, once the race is settled down, he could potentially employ that tactic. And Mercedes, if they get the strategy right, might still be able to come out on top. And even the rain. Anyone can fall foul in the rain. And, Hamilton and Verstappen are not immune to that. So It's anyone's game, especially if it rains. Ricciardo could even win the race if it rains. And literally anyone else could be on the podium. We've had it happen already this season, and it will happen again. Perhaps not this weekend, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating battle between these two. Like you said, you could have them in either order. It could go either way easily. I think Hamilton probably has the nous to maybe try something like that. Verstappen might be a bit risky, but he's very clever as well. He's experienced now as well. So I just can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see the cars roaring around Spa again.
The run up to Le Combe is just going to be, your heart's going to be going like a trip hammer the whole way.
Yeah.
That's what makes Spa so brilliant as well, is the run to La Source is so short, and you're like, oh, well, what is there to be gained after this? But then it's that massive run down to Eau Rouge, up through the corner, over Radion, down the Camel Straight, all the way to Le Combe. And like even in the midfield, they're like 4 wide or something crazy. It's just bananas.
Yeah, and you get people going side by side up Eau Rouge, which is it just defies physics. Because, I've been to that race. I've seen cars go up that corner. It just blows your mind. It's like, how is this possible?
Just doing
how
it
are they
on your
not
own
hitting the bottom
enough.
of their wings on the first bit of the corner? It's so sharp. It's like that.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. So those drivers to do that just shows incredible bravery. And like I said, I can't wait to see the cars roaring around there again. It's my personal favorite track in the world. I don't think anything else comes close, just because the scenery, the corners, the speed, the fans, the weather. It's got everything.
Yeah, when you roll it all together, it is very close to being the perfect setting for a racetrack.
Mm.
And the configuration is incredible. It's potentially slightly too long to be the perfect track, because there is so much ground for it to cover. But it's right up there. It's so special. Even on the old massive layout, the one that did like the whole of Belgium, it was just incredible.
Yeah, the old layout was something else. I can't remember how long it was. It was something like 3 times the length of what we have now. And it was just flat out as well.
Yeah,
from villages and everything. Formula One's come a long old way since then, but it's still a very long track, and it's still got a lot of the same characteristics.
Yep. Special place. So let's finish up our predictions with some bold predictions. Now, what was your bold prediction yesterday in the Grid Talk podcast? You can differ if you wish.
Well, I'll go for a different one, because Ricciardo getting a podium for me was my bold prediction. I think that's quite a shock. What should I say? I'll say Kimi Räikkönen does very well around here. He's got 4 wins around here. I'll say Kimi Räikkönen for the top 8.
Ooh.
Which, given how bad that Alfa Romeo has been, would be a massive shock.
And considering Kimi's potential motivation levels at the moment as well. But maybe he just likes
it's just a hobby for me,
It's just a hobby. It's just a hobby. My bold prediction is Sebastian Vettel to make Q3. Now, the Aston Martin, of course, could be strong given the Mercedes power unit, but have they switched their attentions to 2022? Will the car even be at one with the Spa circuit? All things we'll have to wait and see. But I think Seb's riding along really well. Despite that disqualification in Hungary, he drove brilliantly.
Mm.
And on another circuit, he would have won the race. He'd have found a way past Ocon.
Yeah, if that was at Spa, he would have won the race. He would have found a way past, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel for him so much. It's cost him and his team massively. Just 0.5 kilogram more fuel, and he would have been fine. Something like that. It's tragic for him. It really is. I think he's going to be fired up with that as well. I think he's going to do well this weekend. But I think he'd ironically do better if he didn't qualify in the top 10. He'll have free choice of tyres, and he's shown that a few times where he can start on the hards. I think he did it in France, both the Astons. Start on the hard tyres, just run it really long, and get a good result by the end of it. So I think Aston Martin could do pretty well. Yeah, yeah, the paying per tyre. So there we go.
Excellent, brilliant. Well, that wraps up the episode. That is the Spa preview and some of our favourite Spa memories. Let us know in the comments down below what your favourite Spa memory is. Do you agree with our selections? Do you agree with our predictions as well for the weekend? Now, George, you guys at Grid Talk have some extra podcasts over the weekend. When can we find those throughout the weekend?
Well, I can give you exact times if I can just get onto
Formula One is a clinically accepted sport where everything is down to the nearest millisecond. So let's have it.
Yeah, we
as
have
precise
Tag Heuer
as possible.
timing Yeah, we have tight hour timing on the Grid Talk podcast. So we do our shows very quickly after the events. So for qualifying, we have it at 4:00 BST on Saturday, and for the race, it's 5:00 BST on Sunday. So it's about an hour or so after the qualifying and race shows finish. And as it's the first of a triple header, we have the Dutch Grand Prix the following weekend. So we also have a preview, and that should be going out on Monday at 7:00 for the Dutch Grand Prix, the first Grand Prix at Zandvoort since 1985. I can't wait to see F1 back there as well.
Neither of us were born back then either.
No, not by a long way. Most of the drivers weren't born.
I think that was the year Hamilton was born. So, and Raikkonen would have been around as well, toddling about too.
Yeah, Raikkonen and Alonso. I don't think Vettel was born. I think
No,
it's just
he wasn't.
Alonso, Hamilton, and Raikkonen. They're the only ones.
There you go. That puts it all into perspective.
Yeah, it does all perspective. How long it's been? Yeah, very long time. Massive gap. Very glad to have it back though. Proper circuit. Massive banking on the final corner as well, which will be a spectacle.
That will be interesting. That'll be the interesting bit. The banking. We haven't had banking since, or proper banking since Indy, and all of that.
Yeah.
Let's even talk of them going back there this year. That would be fantastic. That would be quite cool.
It would be great to see. But how are them Pirelli tyres going to hold up around that bend? Because the Michelins couldn't do it back in the day. So I'd be a bit concerned about that, I'll be honest. But I would love
they've got
to
the
see
chicane.
it,
They've got the chicane now, so they'd probably use that.
They do have the chicane. You're right. They finally put a chicane in after all this time.
I know. Madness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, George, for joining me for this episode. I really appreciated you coming on and joining me for this. As George has explained, join him for the Grid Talk podcast on Saturday and on Sunday. Streamed live on YouTube?
Live on YouTube, yeah.
Live on YouTube.
F1 Grid Talk, you'll be able to find us.
Brilliant. I'll leave a link to the YouTube channel in the description as well. Go and check them out and join in the fun. That is all for today. Enjoy the Belgian Grand Prix. George, I will see you on Saturday for the qualifying analysis, and we can see how close we were with our qualifying predictions as well.
Well, like how far away, but yeah, thank you for having
away.
us on, Aaron. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting us on, and thank you for coming on our show and letting us do some promo as well. It's much appreciated.
No problem. Very, very welcome to that. That'll do for today. And when the 5 red lights go out, we will see you next time. Bye for now, guys.
See you later.